It's Monday, March 9, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. It's not merely the flu. The coronavirus is a big threat that could cripple Caribbean economies. That's the consensus of some of the region's leading officials as they participated in the University of the West Indies Vice Chancellor's Forum, COVID-19, partnering in the Caribbean response today. Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Justin Ram, warned that the impact could be far-reaching for already struggling regional economies.
If we have a hit on tourism, it's not only the tourism industry that's likely to be impacted. There are also these indirect impacts. So, for example, as you know, in some of our countries, the agriculture sector provides significant inputs to the tourism industry. And if tourism is impacted, there's a reduced demand, there's going to be knock-on reduced demand for agricultural products, knock-on reduced demand for the services provided by taxi drivers, for example. And so this is a multiplier effect when things are good. Think about it, if our rivals come down, then the reverse happens here. And at the end of the slide where we have improved well-being, there's likely to be a decrease in well-being because of the knock-on effects from a reduction in tourism. Yes? So I think it's also necessary for you to understand that in many of the countries that have already been impacted by COVID-19, CARICOM actually imports quite a lot from those countries. And so I thought it would be useful for you to see what are some of the imports that we are actually taking in from those countries, and to think about if supply chains were to be severed from those countries, what could be the likely impacts. So as you can see here, we import quite a lot from the US. If COVID-19 was to have a greater impact in the United States of America, our supply chains are likely to be impacted. Remember, for example, here in Barbados on a weekly basis, and I guess, Lisa, you can back me up here, there are significant imports of food, for example, from the US. Think about what could happen if we can't import our food from the United States. What happens then? Do we have the contingencies in place to allow us to get our food from other source markets?
Dr. Ram urged governments to be proactive and to put appropriate plans in place to support their economies.
We have to think about how we support labor markets, but also how we support the private sector. Governments, of course, should sufficiently think about resourcing our hospitals and primary care facilities at this point in time with the right amount of labor and financial resources. I think that this is also critical because if, for example, individuals don't have health insurance or that the public health system is insufficient, then we have to think about some way of providing health insurance at this point in time to pay for medical bills associated with the virus. Government should also be encouraged to support and guarantee sick paid leave, because if you have guaranteed sick pay leave, then it's going to be easy for you to self-quarantine. And I think that that's going to be critical at this point in time. So if you don't have that in your place of employment, then the government would need to step in and ensure that that happens. And why that is also important is that it can also be a fiscal stabilizer as well, an automatic stabilizer in the economy, because we don't want a situation where we're saying to people, stay at home, and you have no income. That's no good for anyone.
Meanwhile, the Caribbean is coming together to formulate a global response to the threat. Dr. Misha McLeod, head of the UWI Center for Hotel and Tourism Management in the Bahamas, agreed the impact on the tourism sector could be devastating, particularly for small operators who depend on the cruise sector. But she's optimistic the region will beat the challenge.
I am confident that our Caribbean tourism industry going forward is going to be able to continue its very strong performance. As it was already mentioned, we have beautiful isles in this archipelago, and so our resources here will continue to be an attractor for persons coming to this region, and this region has put in place what is necessary through both the various task force to ensure that the COVID-19 threat that currently faces us will be managed and handled appropriately.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic disclosed today that the government is seeking to purchase more testing kits as Barbados ensures it's fully ready for any eventuality. He was speaking during the estimates debate this afternoon.
We recognize that the government has a responsibility to the citizens of this country to try to get as many kits available for use in Barbados in the event that we need to have those kits.
Testing for the coronavirus on the island is currently being conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab. Director Sanji Beckles also noted that they're looking to increase their capacity to respond.
The capacity that we have at this point in time, we can probably do another 80 tests. PAHO has indicated that they will supply reagents to do another 300 to 400 tests, but is that enough? Maybe not. So we're actually in the process of trying to procure more reagents as well and see if PAHO can actually offer more assistance.
In sports, the young lads of St. Francis Boys School played their hearts out to place third in the recently concluded Barbados Public Schools Football League Under-16 tournament. The squad, known as the St. Francis Stags, led by coach Greg Somerville and physical education teacher Ricky Lane, beat the St. Leonard's boys during the knockout phase to earn a commendable third place and put their school in the spotlight. With a roll of just 70 boys, the Henry Lane's private school team first entered the tournament last year. According to Somerville, they work on a specific tactical style to show their mettle: sit deep, soak up, pressure, and hit on the break. Somerville said the players had the right mentality and they got the job done, winning 8 out of 10 games.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
To regional news now, Guyana's President David Granger this evening warned that he will not allow anyone to hijack the country's democracy and compromise public order and safety. In a statement, he condemned lawlessness and violence in several districts across the country, but assured that the security forces have been working to put a stop to the disorder and bring perpetrators to justice. While noting that election results have still not been declared a week after the polls, Granger appealed for calm. Tomorrow, the Chief Justice is expected to rule on a case filed by the opposition People's Progressive Party Civic to prevent GCOM from making a declaration of the final results. On the international front, the Director General of the World Health Organization says the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic has become very real, but he stresses that the world is not at the mercy of the virus. He noted that of the 4 countries with the most cases, China is bringing its outbreak under control, and there's also a decline in new cases in South Korea.
It's certainly troubling that so many people and countries have been affected so quickly. Now that the virus has a foothold in so many countries, the threat of a pandemic has become very real. But it would be the first pandemic in history that could be controlled. The bottom line is we're not at the mercy of the virus. Of the 4 countries with the most cases, China is bringing its epidemic under control, and there is now a decline in new cases being reported from the Republic of Korea. Both these countries demonstrate that it's never too late to turn back the tide on the virus. The rule of the game is never give up. I'll repeat that. The rule of the game is never give up. We're encouraged that Italy is taking aggressive measures to contain its epidemic, and we hope that those measures prove effective in the coming days. Let hope be the antidote to fear. Let solidarity be the antidote to blame.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.